Hey everybody. Um, Today I'm going to be talking about our Target Solutions tracking system that I've been working on days prior to coming out to Battalion 204 for probably the last 6 months. As if you haven't already grabbed your iPads off of your truck, do me the favor, pause the recording right now, go grab your iPads as well as log into your main screen, your main TV computer in the main room so that everybody can watch this video together. It's probably going to take about 30 minutes to cover the orientation to the tracking system for Target Solutions, and I want you to be comfortable. So, all right, welcome back. What I'd like to cover first is the reasoning behind why we're doing this tracking system for our training. Ultimately, I was brought on days to work on a system of tracking our training for the purpose of improving our ISO rating. For those of you that don't understand ISO, it's Insurance Service Office, and they give cities and towns an insurance rating so that it ultimately affects the insurance prices for our businesses that come into town. And so currently we're sitting at an ISO rating of 2. Your chief's goal is to get us at an ISO rating of a 1, which will be the best possible insurance rates for businesses that come into town. When we can produce that type of rating for the city, it gives us some leverage when it comes to our needs as an organization in delivering services as well. So keep that into mind. In addition to that, it's part of our goal to raise our level of quality service, both internally and externally, and that is to not only track the training that we're doing, but to identify not only for ourselves, your battalion chiefs, your chief, but also city management as to what we currently do on a day-to-day basis. This system is not designed to create a whole lot more work for you. It's designed more so to track that work that you're already currently doing. With the number of academy recruit classes that we have out that are serving us either on trucks or in rover pools, there's a lot of newness to our organization, which means there's a lot of training that goes on a day-to-day basis that doesn't necessarily get tracked. The reason I had you bring in your iPad is because I've tried to, in developing this system, to simplify how it is that we log into Target Solutions and track that training. So if you haven't already noticed, on your iPad, there is an icon there for Target Safety. If you just click on that, it will open Target Solutions for you. You log into it, and you'll see the home page as I shift to sharing my screen with you and going over the differences that I've developed in Target Solutions for tracking our training system. So also I'd like to mention up front that we're wanting either the captains or the engineers to be the ones that log in the majority of the training. It's been set up so that your company officers are the only ones that can go in and track the majority of those activities. So you should be the ones that log in for the day. Also, I want to throw out there that for me, I've found, and this is not just for battalion chiefs, but it's for captains as well as crews, to log their training daily. It doesn't always happen on those iPads. And so what I've had to do is attach a little sticky note to my screen that just says log training. And many times at the end of the day, just in doing my work on the computer, I noticed that sticky note, and it reminds me, oh yeah, we did some training today, and I go in and I log that training. It doesn't take very long. That was the whole idea behind developing this tracking system, that it's made simple for you so that you can track your day-to-day training. In looking into this, it's come to my knowledge that there's a yearly requirement as a fire service for the amount of training per individual that's out there, and that requirement is set up at about 240 hours. Now, when you calculate that you're only on duty for about 120 shifts per year, that's about 2 hours of training per day. That may sound like a lot. It is a lot. But when it comes to what you do on a day-to-day basis, like when you've got new recruits, just imagine how they act, how they are when they first get on the fire truck, and how they seem to be a year from now or a year from then. And it's due to not just running calls, let's say, 800 to 1,000 calls in the year. It's due to the training that you guys do before and after the call, the conversations that are had on the fire trucks. And so I've established some quick link icons to just track that 15-minute block of training that you do from the call back to the station. And if you can imagine, if you're running, let's say, 3 or 4, serious calls for the day, like cardiac or lung or full codes, these are the calls that you discuss with your people. These are the calls that you discuss as medics with each other. We've got new medics in the field as well. So if we're tracking these 15-minute blocks throughout the day, it's not so difficult to track 2 hours of training. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to switch to sharing my screen and showing you the nuances of our Target Solutions tracking system. Okay, so you should be able to see on your screen the home page of Target Solutions. And actually, let me click it to you see Target Solutions. This is the home page of Target Solutions as it appears now. All this area over here that says bulletin board is everything that I've created for this training and tracking system for you to begin as of today, after you're done watching this video, to begin to track the training that you guys do on a day-to-day basis. Before I get into those quick link icons, I want to touch upon this area up here that says March and April training topics. This area was designed for monthly activities as a crew that are going to be assigned to you to work on. And these are all what we've. Let me pull up a Word document that we put together first to kind of show you what's been designed here. Another aspect to this training program is to develop a battalion level training program across 9 battalions that is a consistent way of tracking that we're all learning and performing the same type of training on a monthly basis, yearly basis, 2-year basis. And we've put together a list of training topics, and I'll share that with you now here. Okay, so we've put together a list of training topics, and I sent these out to our battalion chiefs and our BSOs to actually rate them once we listed them. So you can see these all listed. There's about, I believe, about 75 different topics. And so what the intent is to go through these one at a time on a monthly basis. Well, in order to get through all of these training topics in a 2-year period, we have to cover approximately 3 to 4 of these topics per month in order to get through. So that's what you're going to see in this first block of training, and it's going to be changed each month to show the month's training topics. And these topics will be assigned to the captains to accomplish with their crew together. This is also why we've established the computer on the main screens in your station so that you can accomplish some of these trainings together, most of them actually together as a crew, but there's some that require you to watch it on the TV. And so it's far easier than separating out and you guys doing this training as individuals than it is to bang it out as a crew together. So let me just show you how you would log into this. You'll have these assigned to you, but you can log right into the bulletin board. Click on this for crew under ropes and knots, and it will, then you'll have this record completion screen come up. You log in your crew, then you hit continue, and it will take you to the different objectives for ropes and knots. Now there's a lot of objectives here for ropes and knots. It's really designed to go over not only tying ropes and into knots, but also practicing hoisting and hoisting of hose and tools. And so what we've given you here is a list of objectives to kind of help you develop your in-station training. It's not necessary that you accomplish each and every one of these objectives. You might click on the different things that you did accomplish for the day, and then you'll go down here, you'll type in additional information where, you know, what you're, that may not be included in these objectives. Put your date, put your time that you started, the duration of the class. It's important that the instructor be listed. You can click on this and type the first couple letters, and it brings you right to the name of the instructor. So then you can just click on that. Location is required, so you just say like in Station 1, and then staffing is also required. They want to know, did we do this training in service or out of service? You'll notice it seems like it takes a little bit longer to hit these objectives down here. The instructor, the location, the staffing, and you may wonder, why are they even here? Why don't we just make it even quicker and just click on it and put the date, the time, the duration? The reason why is because when ISO reviews our training records, these are the types of things that are needed in each and every activity so that they count towards our 240 hours that they're going to be looking for. Now, they're not going to be looking for a total of 240 hours from everybody. They're going to look at a test group and see. And they're looking probably for somewhere in the ballpark of 200 to 240 hours for the test group on average, so that we can achieve that highest rating of a 1 in ISO, if that makes sense. So at this point, you would click on record as complete. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to skew my numbers, but I can push cancel and go back to our home page by clicking up here to home page. Next, I want to just show you where you might be utilizing your TV to do one of the activities. For instance, fireground accountability. When it comes to this, your crew should remain in place, so it makes it easier day to day to log in your training. If somebody's gone for the day, you'll just click on them and X them out and add in the person that's working on your crew new for the day. Hit continue, and then it takes you right to the activity. So you see here for fireground activity, we've put 2 PowerPoints in here that we'd like you to accomplish. One is an older fireground accountability PowerPoint. Another one I put together that was the Brett Tarver incident, because it calls to mind the importance of accountability and what could possibly go wrong if we're not dialed into accountability. And you should see that now. So you should be able to watch on your big screen when you log in to do this training. You should be able to watch it together and process through this. The reason being too is your firefighters are going to have questions for you as captain when it comes to the types of situations that occurred with the Brett Tarver incident, as they process through the video, as you process through the PowerPoint on accountability. And it's designed for you as captains to have some tools in order to develop your crew. This Target Solutions will eventually become for you a library for training for your crew. So you would process through that. We've got some videos in here that should function, and they seem to be working right.
The worst fire that I've ever responded to was a 5-alarm.
So let me see if...
And we were working together on...
So that was a partner of Brett Tarver's, and it's a very good video. But I wanted to just briefly show you what's in here as far as your monthly activities that are going to be assigned to you for Target Solutions for the month. So back to the home screen, and that kind of covers this. There's 2 more here. I just want you to know that the hazmat first responder, it's a requirement of OSHA that we have 8 hours of hazmat first responder training for the year. What I've put into here, if you process through to that, there's some objectives here. If in fact you've gone, let's say, on just a hazmat call and you want to discuss that as a crew, look over the objectives, see what you talked about, click on the objectives, and then put your additional information, which might be the call itself, the date, the time, the duration, and all that. For this particular monthly assignment, what we want you to do is to process through this PowerPoint right here. If done properly, it may take you somewhere in the ballpark of about an hour to an hour and a half. You may actually need to reach out to one of the special operations hazmat teams just to ask them some specifics. You'll be going over things like the ERG, so you'll need to pull that off of your rig to process through it. But this is another good reason why we've set up the computers at your main screen TV so that you can process through these assignments as a crew and have discussions as a crew. All right, I'm going to click back to home, and that pretty much covers what you're going to be seeing month after month in this bulletin board area right here that goes over the monthly training topics. And this will be battalion level training. Eventually, and this is also part of the objective of this program, eventually by showing how much we do train, it will allow us the opportunity to put into service 2 to 3 ARUs to actually do this monthly training out of service as a group of maybe 2 or 3 companies at a time at one location where we have, let's say for the hazmat first responder training, we have a hazmat instructor that covers this information with you. That's the ultimate objective of this Target Solutions tracking system and training program that we're putting in place here. Now, next I want to go through quickly the icon bullets that I've put here so that you can track your day-to-day training with your crew. So let's click first on this officer training icon. When you click on that, it takes you once again to the record completions. You'll put in your crew and you'll hit continue. Now you'll see there's a lot of objectives that we've put in here, and these didn't just get handed to us randomly. We discussed this when I was on days. Discuss this with your operations chief, with your safety chief and captains, with other BCs and East deputies to put together what works. And so you notice that this officer training also has / acting out of position, because this is what typically happens when we're doing officer training. We're putting firefighters in position of engineer. We're putting engineers or firefighters in position of acting captain. And it's been those times that we have, that accidents have occurred. And so it's important that we put together these objectives to help you as company officers to develop your people properly. To if left alone, if not given this list of objectives, if not having a battalion level training program that's consistent across the board, then you're left to develop your people one way. Another captain may develop their people another way. And so you can see where there's plenty of inconsistencies that come into play with this type of system. So we've developed a list of objectives, and let me just go over some of these briefly, just to give you an idea. And it'd be imperative to you. Like, how does this work for you on a given day? Let's say you've got a person that's acting out of position as an acting captain. It would be important for you as the company officer to review what this list is. And you may not be working on everything each day, but you might want to pick out something to develop your person on. Now, let's look at, for instance, before you put somebody up in the captain's seat, it's important that you do some MCT training. Like, how can they be sitting up there and navigating their way to the call if they're not somewhat familiar with the MCT? There again, you could look at that and say, well, I as a captain might train my person on the MCT different than, the other, 100, 150 captains out there. And that's absolutely right. And so eventually what you're going to see is a separate activity for these types of objectives that are listed here, where there's a complete class built around MCT training, so that you wouldn't just click on this under this quick link off the home page. You might, in fact, for the day, go to the MCT training and say, before I even get you started in thinking about becoming a captain, I want you to go to this MCT training PowerPoint that really goes over a lot of stuff consistently that I may miss in trying to just cover it with you. So that's the objective as this system grows in becoming a library source for you as company officers to develop your people. So you see there's a lot of other good things in here, like developing a vision for each officer position. What is that supposed to look like? So that leaves it to you to think about what's the vision, and we may develop another class that talks about this. As you see a class that's been developed, you'll see on a couple of these other icons that I go over, where there's a double asterisk that's put after the MCT training. That would indicate to you that there is a class elsewhere in your library specifically set up for MCT training or emergency operations or developing a daily action plan. So understand that as we move forward that this is a work in progress. But for right now, this is a good comprehensive list of objectives for you as a company officer to develop not only your people to become engineers, but also to act in the position of captain. So utilize it for that and make sure that you log the officer training. If there's something not listed, additional information, your date, your time, the instructor, and then record as completed for the day. A lot of this stuff goes on each and every day that doesn't get tracked. So there you can see as I'm talking about this, you can realize we do a lot of this kind of talking day in and day out on the apparatus, and we never track it. We want you to begin tracking this, all right? So I'm going to cancel out of this, go back to the home page, and we're going to look at the next one, area familiarization. As captains, as crews, you may be driving around, you may see a new building going up, a new apartment complex. You may stop just to check it out. You may be right after the call saying, we haven't been in this building in a while. Let's take about 15 minutes just to walk around and check it out. The area familiarization icon is designed for you to track exactly that. And it basically, all you got to do, and this one's even simpler, you just type in the address of where it was that you were doing an area familiarization. It could be just an intersection. It could be a name of a building going up, a name of an apartment going up. Just rough description, put something in here to say what it was that you were looking at and familiarizing yourself with. Put the date, the time you did it. And this is limited to 0.5 hours because we just figured, okay, we don't want to keep it wide open, but typically you're going to just be doing this while you're on the apparatus out driving, and then put yourself as the instructor. Next, go back to home again. Let's process through looking at the next one. You got a lot of people that are doing driver's training. As engineers working on their DOC or firefighters working on their DOC, you've been instructed by training division as to where to track that training. Don't use this icon to track it. Use what they've given you and told you to track that training. Okay? This is designed for captains as you're driving along and you have to critique or evaluate or just give some pointers to your person that's driving. This is designed to cover those types of things. So take a look at the objectives that are here. We built this to try and help develop some consistency in how we develop our drivers. It's got things listed here like the 360 of the apparatus walk around. You want your firefighters to begin to develop that habit as they're training to be engineers. And if they don't do it, it's something to just click on and say, let's talk about this. So as you've got somebody in the acting position as a driver, you may want to pull this up and look at what are the objectives that have been listed here that we consistently want to work on with our firefighters that are training on driving. So captains, familiarize yourself with this. Firefighters are going to be acting as engineer. Familiarize yourself with these as the benchmarks that we're looking for so that you can develop yourselves consistently across the board. Next, go back to home. Let's look at another one, EMS call review. Now, when it comes to ISO rating cares about firefighting training that's done. They don't care so much about EMS training that's done. But we do as an organization. Our concern isn't just about ISO. It's about developing our people's skills. Interior, for internal customer service that we develop as a crew to be the best we can possibly be. as well as for external customer service, and we can deliver the quality of service that we have promised our public that we would deliver. In order to do that, you oftentimes do exactly what's in this icon, and that is do an EMS call review. So you click into this, go to here, and we've given you some objectives to look at. Let's say, for instance, you're a BLS captain and you're evaluating your crew that are ALS people. And I know that's been a struggle for a lot of our BLS captains. Like, how do I review them? What is it that I talk about? This gives you a process for actually having those discussions. If, in fact, let's say, for instance, the call didn't go well. How do I go about having that discussion? So what you might want to do is open this up and look at what the objectives are. Did we size up based on the dispatch information? Did we plan the event prior to the arrival? Did we assess the scene safety when we got there, or didn't we, and something went wrong? Initial assessment and general impression. Did we miss something? And that's why this didn't go very well. It was a little bit clunky on the scene, and that's why we're having this conversation. And it gives your medics and your firefighters the opportunity to say, this is what I saw, or this is what I didn't see, and maybe that's why it went well or it didn't go well. So this gives you a list of objectives to kind of evaluate yourselves as crews and to talk about each individual call and process through it. What I'm looking for here in terms of additional information is just some basics. It was a lung call. You might put in the incident if you could remember, but we went on a, let's say, later in the night, you're tracking your calls and you're like, what did we run on today? What did we talk about today for 15-minute blocks? And you can see down here as training hours, it's listed as 0.25 of an hour because it's giving you just that 15 minutes for this hour. And so what did we talk about? What was the call? You just type in, we had a full code. We had a pediatrics code. We had an MVA. And these are the things we talked about. Okay. So this raised a point with us to begin with. We've developed a few more icons as we've gone. But what happens if, in fact, we did like a ventilator call and the ventilator didn't go well, and we want to review that ventilator when we get back to the station? That's more than this 15 minutes. And so there's another icon that we've developed that I'm going to take you to next. So go back to the home page, and you'll see in the home page, you've got down here EMS training topics. If you click on that and hit continue, you'll see that we've listed a whole bunch of different training topics. Now, just so it's clearly explained to you and you're well aware, this quick link icon is designed to track that in-station EMS training on equipment or procedures, also to be used to track the recruit packet EMS education that is accomplished on duty. This is not designed to give you CE hours towards your recertification, just so that's absolutely clear. It can be done if you go through EMS division and let them know ahead of time we're going to be doing a class on one of these topics. Christine will reach out to you with the parameters that need to be accomplished in order for it to be given credit. But for now, we just set this up for you as a quick link to say, you know what, we went over RSI afterwards, myself and my medic partner, because that was a little rough. Or we went over the ventilator today just on the back of the truck, and it took us about 15 minutes, and we covered that. Or we went over PEDS code, we had a mannequin brought out. So click on these things, add any additional information to briefly describe what you did, put your date, your time, your duration. All right, back to the home page. Couple more of these icons I wanted to cover just so you're clear. Engine company training, ladder company training, both of these have your MCSs built into it. Engine has a lot of other criteria here that kind of helps you as a company officer to say, what are some of the things that I need to be working with my crew on to develop them in terms of being proficient on an engine. You've got some stuff here like basic use of ladders. You see the double asterisks here. It means you, and I'll show you before we finish here, that there's a library in addition to these quick link icons where you can go to some basic, there's an activity for just basic ladder uses. And so it's got more objectives that are specific to just how to raise ladders and different methods of raising ladders. But in both the engine company and the ladder company icon, you have these MCS documents that have been attached here. They're what everybody sees as MCS for training on. Typically, we don't train on MCS until we're told we're going to be doing minimum company standards, and then all of a sudden, and company captains and crews, they start to panic and they're like, what are those? And they pull them out and they start working on them. What we suggest, and the reason I put this in here, is that if you guys are going to be working as crews on, let's say, with your recruits, we're going to be doing a 5-inch supply, 1 3/4 line attack, open up the MCS and see what the specific criteria are so that you can be training according to what our minimum company standard is. So that's why we've attached that there. And then just put in specifically what you worked on, the date, the time, duration, and all that stuff. Okay. Same thing goes for ladder. There's a long list of objectives in there that are slightly different for the ladder than there are the engine. Okay. This is not, neither one of these two is designed for, I went out and I checked my apparatus today. Checking your apparatus is your job. It's not training, it's your duty. What's training is you're going through it with, let's say, a recruit, and it's like, I want to show you how this, let's go through your air pack. Let's go through the different safety features of the air pack and make sure you understand it. Now we've not just checked our air pack, we've done buddy breathing, we've done all this stuff, and it took us 15 minutes as a crew, and we worked on that. Or we pull out some other tool and we talk about it. That's engine company training or ladder company training. But just checking your truck is not considered training. Okay, you'll notice there's physical fitness in here as one of the icons. And when you click on that, we've got different types of physical fitness. CrossFit training is not allowed from what I understand now, so we may have to adjust that. We don't want you to be working out so hard. But just be aware of, these are just a list. It's not a full list, but hopefully it'll count for what it is you did. As for duration, these are allowed towards ISO, but ISO only allows you 1/3 of an hour. They only allow you to count 1/3 of an hour. So you may find, because we may have to adjust this and put it back to 0.33 hour, that's all that's in there so that we can track it appropriately. Because you can imagine, if you've got 120 shifts potentially that you're working for the year and you're doing an hour a day, you're already at 120 hours. If you're doing an hour and a half of workout, you're over that. And that's not the intent in the 200 to 240 hours requirement that we're looking for. So that's why they're only giving you credit. It's not to say we only want you to work out for 20 minutes a day. It's that they're only giving you the credit for that. And so you may only be able to track 0.33 of an hour. Tactics and strategies. As we're developing our company officers, we do a lot of this. So what we've built into this particular icon, we don't have it set up so specifically with objectives. I may adjust this as we move forward, but it talks about tailboard review. Did you do that? Post-fire discussion on tactics and planned or unplanned tactical review in station or on location. Consider the modern fire objectives that we said we wanted to do as an organization. Did we talk about 360, transitional attack, reading smoke, reading fire, vent limiting, proper attack points, all of these things that play into the basics of what we said we wanted to do on a structure fire. These are the things that you track in this tactics and strategy. If you're doing a table talk with your guys, developing them for captains testing, you'll just write in here a general description. What is it that I talked about? I think there's a 2-hour limitation to this, even though I know a lot of you guys as crews cover more than 2 hours. So be mindful that some of what you're covering is tactics and strategy. Some of what you're covering is officer training. So split it up. One other thing here, this working fire QA report. I want to click on this real quick because anytime you have a working fire, for battalion chiefs or for the first in company officer, if the battalion chief doesn't do it, you may be required to fill this fire QA report out. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to bring this up. And it takes you to a SharePoint document where you're going to process through this document. It takes maybe 5 minutes to process through after your fire, all the different things that we did or did not do so that we can track them. So that, let's say, over a quarter period of time, we have, like, let's say 20 structure fires, working structure fires. We can look back and we can say, how many times did we do a transitional attack in those 20 fires? Because you clicked yes. How many times was there a resident report given, so that we can track it and we can look at it and say, how are we doing as a department? Are we doing what we said we wanted to do, or do we need to work on that, more specifically? So that's why this QA report has been developed. Know that it exists, and we will be following up with you as battalion chiefs, you as captains at times, saying, look, you had a structure fire. We know this because we get a CAD message that comes across that says you had a working fire, and yet we did or did not receive a form. So that's how that will process through. Let me go back to Target Solutions. You can see that this is what the icons are about. There's some other icons in here for radio communications, pre-planning, hazmat. If you have a hazmat call and you want to discuss that, that's there. Public education, all that's good stuff. I'm not going to process through that for time's sake. Working fire audio reviews. This is something that I put together so that you could go into this icon, find the working fires that we've had since the beginning of the year. And let me show you how this works. You click on this, and I'm continually updating this as we get a working fire that's of any significance. I'm reloading fire tapes into this. What I've developed is an audio review criteria. I'm going to click on that and show you the document for that. So this is the document for that. This is just designed to print out and look at while you're listening to the tape. To see, how did we do in terms of radio communications overall? What's your size up and route? What do we know by listening to the tape? Assumption of command, how did that go? You can talk as a crew, how did that go? What are my expectations as a captain from you as firefighters? This is what I might say as opposed to what was said. Look at rescue. Was there a rescue situation? Look at safety. Was safety established? Did they complete a safety 360? And so this is just a list of how to evaluate the call as you are listening to it. Now, how do you find the calls? Working fire tapes. Click on this, and this takes you to the file center. And these are all the different structure fires since the beginning of the year. And it will continue to get longer and longer. You would just click on this, 9310 East Main. You click on that. You've got the tape. You click on this. You can start listening to that fire.
I've reported black smoke showing from the trailer.
Okay. So I'm going to process back out of this, and we're back to Target Solutions. So I want to try and finish this up real quick with you. That's the basics of the icons. It's not everything, but it really helps with a quick link to as much as we could come up with. Where is everything? I want you to know that before I finish, that this is not everything, but everything can be found under record completions right here. Record completions. Now, if you clicked on that, because you couldn't find it here, you look for record completions, this is your future library. And I've organized it under 1-, 2-, and 3- by putting those classes that are most important to you up in the 1s, 2s, and 3s. So I've moved them up in the list so you don't have to look too far to find them. So daily activities are under 1-. Under 2-, it's company training activities that have been built. Under 3-, it's fire training activities that have been designed. And you can see you can find a lot of your classes here. If there's a double asterisk, you'll typically find that class under 1-, 2-, or 3- classes. Once again, that's under home and record completions. Okay, out. So I appreciate your attention today. I know that's a lot to absorb. Hopefully I've given you an understanding as to why we are doing this tracking system for training. through Target Solutions, what the objectives are moving forward. The more we can track as a crew, the better we can show a need for ARUs in the future, so that we can do a lot more of this training out of service with better quality instructors that are experts in these different topics. And so it's really dependent on you as company officers, as crews, to start tracking your day-to-day training activities. I know you're going to have some questions regarding this. Caitlin is well versed in loading in and documenting your Target Solutions, even though she's working from home right now as we're going through this COVID situation. She answers her calls. They're all forwarded to her. I'm available as a resource for you. So either reach out to me at Battalion 204 or through email, and I'll answer any questions that you have. And your BCs have, for the most part, except for the newer BCs that have just recently come out, have been doing this since January and have gotten pretty well versed in how this is to be done. So reach out to them as a resource as well. So that's all I've got for you. Thank you very much for your attention. I know it's been long, but hopefully you've been reclining in your recliner, haven't fallen asleep, and have paid pretty good attention to what it is that we're looking to accomplish with Target Solutions. So thank you very much.